Okay, looks like we are right about the hour here. We're live, correct, John?
We are live.
All right, good to go. We'll give everybody another minute or two here. I know technology sometimes doesn't work the way we always want it to, so we'll give everybody a chance to make sure they get a little bit of time to log on here.
Well, we got a
Really
minute.
quick, yeah, go ahead, John.
There you go, Kyle. I was just going to say, remind everybody about the housekeeping.
Yep. Yeah, while we're waiting, just a couple of things to go over to. This is a Zoom webinar format, so as of right now, I think by default your mic and audio are all muted. So only technically the panelists, which most of us you see here on camera, are the only ones allowed to speak. That's just going to allow us to basically get through the presentation, and this will be recorded also. And then if feel free, if you have questions during the presentation, you can drop those in the chat, and we'll try to get to them here during the second half of this presentation, which the second half of the hour here will be dedicated towards us going through and kind of answering some of those higher level questions as well. Okay, we'll give it another quick minute here. Hope everyone's had a good start to the week. Now that we're about the halfway point here, I stay up and we'll go over introductions here in a few minutes here. But I stay in Western Montana, and springtime for me is always energizing because our winters can get a little rough. So warm weather definitely brings some energy. It's always nice to be able to get outside and stuff after a long winter and kind of enjoy the weather and enjoy the land. I want to say there was I didn't check the list yesterday, John, but there's roughly probably 35, 40 projected attendees, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, we'll get going here pretty quickly. Okay, looks like our numbers are looking good. So let's go ahead and get started. Really glad to have everybody on today. We've made a lot of progress over here in tribal energy alternatives on a number of different things. Today will specifically be dedicated towards the Western Indigenous Network Solar for All pilot phase application process. Really quick before we get any further, my name is Kyle Felsman. I come from the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes of Western Montana, where I currently reside in. I am the Federal Programs Director for Tribal Energy Alternatives, formerly known as Grid Alternative National Tribal Team, but we've since rebranded and actually are going towards, gaining and becoming our own affiliate office of Grid Alternatives. Those ties are all still there. We are still fully tied and, underneath Grid headquarters, but with a new name and rebranded. So I just want to make that clear, which is big news for us. It's a good step forward in us being able to brand ourselves as tribally led and tribally operated. With that, as the federal programs director, I oversee our Solar for All effort, Western Indigenous Network. I do have a couple of my team members here on with me. I have Jillian Papan, who is my program manager and oversees a lot of the high level grant activities and financial assistance and application processes. I have my project manager, also named Jillian Wild, who's going to oversee a lot of our implementation and construction activities. A huge shout out and thanks to our communications and outreach people. I got my colleague John Teller, who's helped coordinate this webinar and stuff like that, as well as Veronique Arguello, who put together a lot of the material and is going to help us kind of facilitate some of the questions and stuff at the end. I also have my colleague, the Director of Operations and Construction, Mr. Simon Wood, who is one of the longest standing Grid Tribal team members who really heads up our construction efforts and really, helped us kind of gain our popularity in this space here too. So thanks to the team members here we have on. Really quick, I'll go through some of the housekeeping again, really quick here. Again, this is a webinar format, meaning that US participants by default are muted and not on video. If you do have questions that come up during the presentation, feel free to drop those in the chat. We'll try to get through as many of those as we can. And the second half of the presentation will be dedicated to taking a look at those and providing some input. Um, some of you on the webinar may have actually received some of the recent communications that we put out as part of our outreach. Full disclosure, we did our Western Indigenous Network Solar for All is going to be dedicated to 6 states, including the Four Corners area. So we got Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, plus Nevada and California. We did not include California on the first round of our initial outreach, only because of the number of tribes, and we also have partnerships with certain organizations within California, as well as good regional offices. And we just want to make sure that we first coordinate in-house with those regional offices and our partners to ensure that, we're covering our grounds as far as, some existing relationships that some of you may or may not have with our partners and such. So, stay tuned for that. You will be looking forward to communicating with you directly here soon. So I just wanted to make sure that was known. With that, I'm going to jump right into the slide here show here. So the way this is going to be formatted is we'll just go like over some high level program overview and stuff, and then I'll hand it off to some of my team members here to kind of go over some of the specific processes that we offer for the application phase for our pilot projects, as well as the technical assistance we offer. Okay, so this slide really provides just a high-level overview of what our Western Indigenous Network Solar for All program has to offer. So we were awarded the EPA Solar for All grant. We were one of 6 tribal awardees awarded. And our work plan and our application was really dedicated towards serving federally recognized tribes in the Southwest region. So you'll see that map there on the right-hand side. If you were a federally recognized tribe within one of those 6 states, you are eligible to apply for our subgrants or financial assistance through our Solar for All program. So by default, again, we are looking at serving roughly 2,910 households on tribal lands in those 6 states that I named earlier of Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and California. When it's all said and done, we're hoping to do an installation of roughly just under 14.5 megawatts of solar energy, plus solar and battery storage, which a lot of that's going to be dedicated to California. We can talk more about that and when we do specific tribal meetings. And you can also include a big portion of that in our work plan. We are going to try to dedicate to workforce development, as well as small portions of that can also be utilized for enabling upgrades. So that could be like, if there's roof structures and things like that, or potential conduit or panels that are insufficient, we can look at providing assistance that helps with those also. So we were awarded, I should have had it on here. We were awarded $62,450,000 as a prime awardee. 72% of that 62 million is going to go directly back to tribes for financial assistance in the form of sub-grants or participant support costs. 28% of that's going to be basically delegated to our coalition partners in-house so that we can provide staff and technical expertise to tribes when we're helping them either tee up these projects and or self-manage or construct projects as well. We do have a really good, solid team of coalition partners. So we have the Alliance for Tribal Clean Energy, the Native CDFI Network, Native Renewables, and then the California Tribal Energy Collective as coalition partners who some of you on a call might be familiar with some of these organizations that we partner with, but they are all really well positioned and are experts within their realms of business, which is why we have them as coalition partners. Here's a really quick snapshot of really the services and the scope of what our Solar for All grant is offering to tribes. There's really 2 main categories, one of them being financial assistance and the other being technical assistance. The financial assistance portion, most of that's going to go directly to sub-awards or sub-grants to federally recognized tribes in those 6 states. And those grants are really going to be geared towards solar PV installs. Some of those are going to be with battery storage potential, and that can be either single family, multifamily, or community solar. Like I said, some of that's going to depend on which state you may reside in and where the tribal lands are and stuff like that. We can work all that out through individual meetings with tribes. And then also, we can pay for and fund certain aspects of workforce development if they're related to, the energy sector, again, as well as enabling upgrades. Some of the financial assistance can also be provided in the form of potential. We can help you match make with loans or gap funding that are provided through some of our existing grid programs like TSAF. We also, like I said, partner with the native CDFI networks, so we can help do some matchmaking and get you in touch with some of those CDFI networks for potential project financing and stuff like that. We also have like a budget category within our Solar for All program called participant support costs, which is basically a funding pool that allows us to provide funding for tribes to fund like individuals or potential groups to participate in like trainings or conference events, informational sessions that we might put on, as well as we can fund potential workforce development efforts and things like that. And then there's going to be other aspects of program participation that those participant support costs can cover also. We'll get a little bit more into technical assistance in future slides, but just a snapshot of that, we can help provide technical assistance for project development and construction planning, workforce development, training and planning, financial modeling and capital stacking. So I won't get too much into this yet, but we can help you kind of figure out ways to get creative with the actual project financing through existing incentive programs, depending on what state you're in, or loans and things like that. Economic development assistance for tribally operated and tribally owned businesses and entrepreneurs. So if you're a tribe that has like kind of some local contractors that want to become like certified installers and things like that, that's definitely an avenue we want to explore. And we have a pretty pol or like heavy and diverse policy department where we can kind of help coach you through, depending on what state and you're in, depending on which utilities you're dealing with. We can kind of help coach you through the best case scenario for your projects through our policy expertise and our partnership network. So here's a really quick overview, and I'm kind of the I guess snapshot and announcement of our pilot project phase. You'll see the map there on the right shows basically the federally recognized tribes that with each bullet point there that we're going to be planning on at least doing some outreach to notify you about our project. I want to say there's over 180 total federally recognized tribes within our 6 states, so we definitely have a lot of work to do, but this is definitely step one in moving towards that direction. Um, Really quick, I do want to re-emphasize that we dedicated the initial outreach and kind of email chain that we put out to notify people about the pilot phase to the 5 states, not including California. California will get its own. Like I said, we just have to make sure we're doing some coordination with our partners in our grid regions within that, because there is existing relationships that we know you may have and our regions may have that we want to be respectful of anyway. So here's kind of a slide that's dedicated to like a high level overview of what this pilot phase process is going to look like. So we just put out some announcements on some social media and on our website that says we are now soliciting proposals or applications for our WIN-SFA pilot project phase to federally recognized tribes in that 6 state region. The application that we currently have right now is in 2 steps. So the first step one to that is if you need technical assistance and kind of need help and guidance formulating like a sufficient work plan and budget related to your proposed solar projects, we can help you through that. There's a kind of a more of a questionnaire, or phase one of the application is really dedicated to helping us gauge how much help that you may or may not need. And phase two to that application is just the portal that you're going to actually submit the application documents to, which again is we'll get more into that, but it's the full application process that you go through in submitting, a complete proposal. Eligibility, it's pretty loose right now because we're still working through refining like our eligibility and valuation criteria. But right now, as by default, like I said, as long as you're a federally recognized tribe or a majority owned tribal entity and you can prove that, that's located within our target states, and then you can, in one way or another, we can prove that your potential project can suffice a 20% household savings. Then by default, you'd be eligible to apply. And then just by a high level, snapshot of what our evaluation criteria is going to look like, it's going to be based really off of kind of project readiness, which is why we're calling it a pilot project phase. We want to get some of these mechanisms up and running so that we can operate, some of the mechanisms and then refine them from there on so that when we get to later years and we get to, bigger spending and bigger projects, we have some stuff that we can work off of. We can incorporate some lessons learned and really kind of refine our processes. They also have to, the projects are going to have to align with what the Solar for All program is meant to do, and it's more specifically ours. And we can definitely, like I said, through individual meetings, we can address what those are going to be, as well as just general risk assessment. That's kind of go along with spending any sort of federal dollars. We have to, evaluate risk and mitigate if possible. And then implementation. So after, once we get through this first round of pilot phase, we're hoping that this is all going to be, said and done, and we can cut actual contracts to U.S. tribes by sometime this fall and to actually start, the projects that you are proposing anyways. That's a really, like I said, a high level overview, and there's some details we have to work out, but that's why we're deploying this pilot phases so that we can really, kind of try to work out the kinks for future years and bigger and more money spent through implementation. With that, I'm going to hand it off here to my team member, Jillian Papan, to kind of go over some of the high level application processes.
Hello, everyone. Um, on the slide, I did link the Asana application. I can put that in the chat. Basically, this one is an online version. You'll go through Asana and you'll just fill out the application. Some of the key takeaways of the application is we are asking for 2 points of contact for the application, and that would help us ensure that we continue to be in contact with the tribe. There are 4 key narrative questions with possible sub-questions. It just depends on your answer, kind of an if-then logic. And then we have 3 pieces of required documentation. So a completed work plan. We have a guide up there. It'll kind of walk you through the components of that work plan. If there's any questions, you can reach out. Budget and narrative, as well as a project timeline and schedule. And those ones are pretty self-explanatory, but the guides will be there to help you. Next slide. The NOFO lays out all of the terms. The 2 things I want to highlight are the deadlines. So we have 2 application periods. The first one is May 1st through June 30th. And then the second one is July 1st through August 30th. After those application periods close, you can kind of expect a 2-week review period after closure. I apologize. Sorry, guys. I've got kids home from preschool for the summer. The second portion is a 4-week information gathering for award agreement. So we'd kind of, if there was additional information we needed to kind of go over your application, that would be the point where we would reach out. Next slide. And then this one kind of goes a little bit into like the capital stacking. So this would be a form of technical assistance for the financial side. So if a tribe needed some help with that, they could reach out and we could kind of do an assessment of what it is they're looking for. If they're looking for information on the ITC tax credits, some of the state energy initiatives relative to their state, ownership models, they can reach out to us for that financial assistance, and we will be working with the Alliance for Tribal Clean Energy as well as Native CDFI Network to help flesh out what that looks like for each tribe. So you would reach out, we do an initial consultation, and then we would link with those 2 and then kind of dig deeper for what the tribe would need. But that's all we have on this side for capital stacking. I'll send it back to Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jillian. That's a good overview of kind of the processes too. And I just want to reiterate too, if there's further questions or if you really have a lot of information to diverge to that we can't answer through this information session, we will provide contact information at the end to help kind of coach through and give more information on the application process. With that, let's jump into kind of the technical assistance portion of which really spells out how we can help you through these processes and kind of outlining what that actually looks like. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to my team member, Jillian Wild.
Hey guys, Jillian Wild. For technical assistance for construction, one of the great things that we're offering is no cost technical assistance. So if you're a tribe that's not familiar with doing solar projects, or you might be feeling a little bit overworked and understaffed this summer, we're here to help you with that. So this basically means that we will help you with your application. And the goal at the end of this is to pull all the pieces together so that you can apply for this grant. And that's what we're going to assist you with. So some of these things that we're helping with are just all your project development stuff. So all the like technical engineering work. We're also providing like contractor resources, procurement process help, operation and maintenance guidance, as well as like site audits and just all that highly technical stuff that takes a lot of time. We are able to provide as a part of this grant. And so if you want, you don't have to take our help, but if you want this no cost technical assistance, there is a link on the website where everything else is, and you can schedule an appointment with me, and I'll get you guys started on kind of that assistance towards pulling together this application, because deadlines are tight and we're all busy. So we can kind of take some of that burden off of you if you would like that. And yeah, again, the goal at the end is to just essentially have an application that you can then apply with. All right, Kyle.
Yeah, good overview. Good overview. Thank you. With that, that's like the end of the formal piece of the presentation anyways. And I haven't checked the chat. I don't know if there's any questions in there, but I will kind of disclose a couple of things too that you'll see once if you follow up with this and you're able to take a look at our website and look at the notice of funding opportunity, or if you got to have a copy of it, we're really going to be targeting projects that are more ready at this point. So even though we do offer that technical assistance, if your project is looking like more ready, more developed, and kind of ready to hit the ground, we're aiming to get some of this stuff moving quicker just for this pilot phase. The rest of the program and the rest of the grant dollars in future grant years is going to be developed and geared towards more of an equitable approach and trying to, spread out and kind of share as much of this funding that we have as possible. So round one, pilot phase one of this is going to be geared towards, kind of figuring some of that out, but also prioritizing some of the more ready projects anyways. And then by default, you'll see in that notice of funding opportunity that we're looking for potential projects with tribes in that 6-state region that are going to be between roughly 15 and 45 households per tribe. And then the way that'll work is you'll apply for a project within that, kind of range. Could go up or down depending on if you're planning on using, other state or federal incentive programs. Once you apply, we're planning on contracting, working directly with, a tribe or your entity, whether that be a housing authority, potentially a nonprofit entity. But we're looking at cutting those projects with basically with one contract, if that makes sense. That too. Let's see. With that, I think I'm gonna default to some of the questions. That wraps up, like I said, the formal piece of the presentation. You'll see here that's our team, our WIN-SFA team right now, and we are growing. So we're gonna have people kind of dedicated to some of the grant making and things like that as well. That we have people coming on, but there is our contact information. So you got Tribal SFA at tribalalternatives.org is kind of our website there. And then if you need to, or sorry, our email. And then if you want to go and check out our website, that's our website link there on the bottom. And that gives you that website is the place that actually houses the notice of funding opportunity as well as the links to the actual applications themselves. So if you were able to, after this, go on and kind of check that out, that should hopefully cover a lot of the information maybe you are going to be asking about. But again, we're here for you guys to provide additional information and like I said, even to step further, provide that technical assistance. Let's see, how are the questions looking, Vero? I'm trying to log onto the chat here.
Good. We got one in the chat that asks, are the applications reviewed on a first come, first served basis, or are they reviewed equally all together after the application window closes?
Jillian, I'll let you take that one if you want to give some initial information, and I can provide details if need be.
All the applications will be, it's not a first come, first served basis. As the applications come in, we're just going to be making sure that they're complete, but the initial review will take place after the application period closes, and all applications will be given the same view. Within the NOFO, we do put an emphasis, like the applications that utilize like that capital stacking and are able to pull in other resources and funding for their project will be given, you know, like more preference, but that's the only thing.
Yeah, exactly. Really hit the mark there. So that's part of the reason we have basically a windowed application phase to where there's a cutoff to where you can submit. That way, it saves the fact that there's not going to be a first come first served basis. And also reemphasize that we are planning on doing two separate pilot phase application process. The first one will close June 30, the next one will start and close 2 months after that, at the end of August as well. So great point. And a lot of the information, as far as evaluation criteria and stuff like that, that's all listed in the notice of funding opportunity. That's linked on the website that we have on this page here too. All right, anything else there, Vero?
Yeah, we have another question. Do you plan on releasing any program administration or program implementation RFPs?
Yes, so there's going to be different levels of like program admin stuff as well as RFPs at different levels of services that we can't directly provide. So depending on how this all goes, the notice of funding opportunity is going to cover the sub grants that we have, planned to give out to tribes. So that's like the solicitation that we put out for that portion. When we get to actually doing implementation work and look to construct projects, there is a good chance that our in-house construction team cannot support any and all of those. So we are going to be soliciting potential proposals and putting out RFPs for contractors to do, to provide actual installation services and potentially other, services we may need to hire in order to actually complete some of this stuff. What those are, we kind of have some ideas, but we're definitely going to have to, come up with some more details. And that's something that we can really, when we get to that point, we're going to help try to market that out to ensure that at least the word is out about some of that stuff too. So yeah, look forward to the big one I can name right now, like I said, is soliciting proposals or RFPs for potential contractors to do work on the actual installs for these projects. Anything else heavy hitting in there, Vero? Questions?
Yeah, there is a question asking if there will be a technical assistance webinar with the technical team.
Oh, good question. So if there is through the outreach that we still have to do, I want to say we plan on making like at least contact and solidifying a point of contact with each tribe. And then depending on the feedback we have, if there's enough response to needing a specific webinar for just technical assistance, I don't see why that's something that we can't do. And that's something that we can set up with, like I said, my team member, Jillian Wild, as project manager, as well as people like potentially, like we got Simon Wood on here as our director of operations and construction, and some of our other expertise, within those teams to help kind of, get a little more detail with some of the information you may need. So, yeah, that's something we can definitely do. But I think a first good option in order to get a gauge on what you need would be to either schedule an appointment with Jillian Wild, which we can provide contact information, or fill out that actual technical assistance, phase one application or questionnaire that's linked on our website.
Yeah, and another question, are there upper dollar limits applicable to a tribe as an applicant?
Can you provide a little bit of clarification? Like, couldn't quite catch the full context of the question there. Sorry. Like, say it one more time, please.
In the chat, it looks like they're asking if there's a max award.
So right now, like I said, we as a team kind of put the project limits based on the household count instead of putting a number on that notice of funding opportunity. So we put 15 to 45 households, which could be anywhere from, $150,000 project up to $1 million, depending on which state you're in, depending on project costs and things like that. So I want to say, like, by default, we're not going to consider too much for the pilot phase that goes over that 45 house, install limit. But depending on what state you're in, and if we can work it to where we can get funding from other incentive programs, then that could potentially go up. So that even though like the project cost itself could be $1 million, but a big chunk of that can be paid for with other programs, which we can help coach you through. The grant cost is only going to be a portion of what the actual project cost would be. So it's really subjective. So right now, like I said, that rough max limit is roughly 45 households, or could be a little bit higher than that depending on what you use. And that's just for this pilot phase. So in future years, though, that could definitely go up depending on the applications we see and some of the information we get on what type of projects tribes are interested in doing. Good question, though. All right, I'm ready, Vero, if there's anything else.
No, there's not any questions right now, but I'll just remind like attendees that you can drop any questions you have either in the chat if you want them marked as answered or available to view for everyone to see. You can also put your questions in the Q&A part. It's on the bottom part of the Zoom panel. And you can also submit those anonymously too, I believe. So yeah, feel free to please drop those questions in the chat. This is the second half of the Zoom meeting of our session, and so we've designated this time for questions. So please feel free to do that. If you need any help, message us on the chat as well, and we can help you that way.
Yeah, anything and everything, feel free to drop it into the chat. I'll stay on for a few more minutes if there's anything else that comes up, but a couple of things to emphasize anyway. Like I said, the website link there on this last slide, plus the Solar for All page and the notice of funding opportunity has a lot of information on basically spelling out what this pilot phase has to offer right now. So yeah, please refer to that. Hopefully that's able to tell you and answer some of the questions you may or may not have, here. And also want to, again point out that this pilot phase is really a temporary process, and a lot of our future grant making and financial assistance kind of mechanisms will probably likely change and become more refined when we start getting into bigger projects for future grant implementation.
Hey, Kyle. I just want
Yes.
to remind everyone to, we mentioned this in the chat a little bit earlier, but there's obviously a lot of traffic in the chat. We will post these slides as well as a recording of this
Correct.
webinar
Yeah.
onto the website, which is tribalalternatives.org/solar-for-all, or just visit us at www.tribalalternatives.org. We're located under the federal programs link on the homepage. And I don't see a whole lot of questions coming in, but obviously, folks, if you have further questions, reach out to the team, email us at tribalsfa@tribalalternatives.org, and a member of the team would be happy to reach out and answer any questions you may have.
Yes, exactly. And then I think that there's a strong chance that we probably do additional webinars, based on responses, we may or may not get some feedback. We may, this will be recorded and posted, but we might refine and like add stuff for future informational sessions as well. like I said, based on feedback we get throughout this first round for this for the pilot phase. I will encourage if you see things on social media and stuff like that, feel free to like reshare as much of that as we can. We're really trying to get the word out, at least to inform tribes that we are open applications right now for our pilot phase. And also I would if you haven't made direct contact with the Tribal Energy Alternative Solar for All team, feel free to reach out so that we can establish a point of contact for your tribe, which may be you or potentially other people as well. We want to, like I said, it'd be great for us to have at least one confirmed point of contact with each of the tribes in our target region. So that's something we're gonna actively work towards. So I just encourage you to do that. Reach out to us if you haven't already. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat. It doesn't look like there's too much more. Is that correct, Vero, John?
Yeah, I don't see any more questions.
Okay, with that, maybe we can wrap it up for webinar one. Yeah. Again, I'll say reach out if you have any future or additional questions here. There's our contact information on this last page. Like I said, love to make contact with you and have a discussion. Really appreciate your time today. I know in this world, everybody's got busy schedules, but I appreciate everybody logging on today, and really looking forward to hitting the ground running with some of this work that we have going on. We have a really good team in place throughout Tribal Energy Alternatives, and really looking forward to working with each of the individual tribes. So thank you.